So welcome everybody to Off the Record Airtable Secrets and Lore. We are a group of Airtable users exploring new ways to use Airtable to optimize our businesses and lives. Open to hearing from anyone about your experience, good or bad, using Airtable to make a positive impact in the world. We attempt to promote people coming from any level to share your ideas or ask questions, and we also share our experiences, tips, and practices, and offer ways to get help and get involved in the community. We meet every Wednesday from 7 p.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern here in Zoom. We used to be in Clubhouse, now it's Zoom. So if you want to join us and it happens to be a Wednesday that we're doing these, you can join us at www.videowithben.com. So to kick things off, I was just thinking while I was reading that, is I don't know that we ever did a proper intro of Kuovonne or Kamille. We used to do those in the first days. Back when we were in Clubhouse, we would do intros every week. I feel like we never did an intro aside from the app demonstrations. Does anybody want to do an intro of Kuovonne? I don't know if Kamille can talk right now, but Kuovonne, Camille's at work. I met Kuovonne through Dan's group, or actually, Chris, you met Kuovonne before me. I guess I met her first through the Airtable Users Conference.
I didn't meet her, but she was a speaker.
Yes.
Yeah. Chris had the conference and I said, hey, I want to speak. And he said, I have no clue who this person is, but sure, I'll give her a chance. And I
was just excited you were I was just excited you were a lady. Because I wanted non-looking, I didn't want the same motley crew, which is always at the conferences.
Kuovonne, you mainly do app development, is that right? Or
so I do, my favorite is writing scripts, but I also do apps. I actually counted, I think I have 6 apps in the marketplace right now and working on another one that I think is very close to being ready, another little tiny app. But then I also do base development and I do one-off consulting where people say, hey, I've got this question about Airtable. Let me book half an hour with Kuovonne, and I say what I think.
And then we have Kamille, the woman of many jobs.
I've appeared from the ether to introduce myself. My name is Kamille Parks. I am an active member on the community forums. I'm also on the podcast Built on Air, and occasionally I'm here, sometimes lurking in the shadows.
We thank you both. Kamille's consistently been here for many weeks, so we appreciate that. To kick us off, I appreciate you both doing the intro. I just wanted to make sure people knew who you guys were, who you ladies were. To kick us off with news, did you guys hear? Chris sent me a snapshot, but with Stacker, how they have a beta for a custom non-Airtable or non-externally hosted backend.
I have not heard that. I don't use Stacker that much, so I don't necessarily get their news.
Dun, dun, dun. Yes, but I have prepared.
Do you have a demo?
No, but I just like freezing in a pose like I might be able to take flight. No, but I tried Stacker out. You know me. I'm always like, come on, people. I tried Stacker out some time ago, but I've prepared a little Stacker review for you folks. So this is Stacker in 2020. I know it's a little because my screen's big. Sorry about that. But this was in 2020, all the things that got done. Basically, I had tried Stacker out. I mean, it just ran really slow on me. But then this is where I get confused about Stacker, right? And then by April of 2021, they had something called Stacker X, which was really kind of this new version of Stacker, which had like a beta. And again, it looked kind of like the Stacker I was used to, but apparently it was going to work faster and smarter and all this other kind of stuff. Then jump to May of 2021, there's a new Stacker platform that you were allowed to try then. I think there was another pricing change here. But then, again, get ready for the pivot. I just saw this and I sent this to Ben. So this was November 2nd. How's what you think? Here we go. Stacker's new beta, join the waitlist. We're working on a new version of Stacker. So mind you, this is like the 5th or 6th version of Stacker. Maybe that's what Stacker means. We'll just try something else. Doesn't require any external data source or need you to plug in any database just to set up Stacker app. So I think that's interesting. Again, one of these companies that's saying maybe betting the farm at Airtable wasn't the best idea. So thoughts, and how long until Softer pivots and has their own backend?
Softer?
Yeah.
I have no idea about Softer. I do think it's smart that they finally said we're not going to be solely reliant on Airtable. Like base their whole business off of Airtable.
I mean, it's not that surprising. They were having issues of trying to keep everything in sync with Airtable. So the idea of, okay, if the main thing you want is this front end, that could sort of solve your syncing problems because you control the data flow and you already have the most recent thing. But I think part of it is they have to decide what the market is I think for these portals is there's people who internally want to control their data and they still like the Airtable user interface. They just want to give a limited access to people outside. And so that's why they're getting these portals. So if people still want to interact with their data in Airtable for just their internal staff, then they're not going to go and move all of their data just completely into Stacker.
I feel like this is, if I was Stacker, like I think it makes sense, but it seems like so much work to try to recreate your own. And for example, like people who use Airtable, or at least from my experience, it's likely that they use the API. And so wouldn't that mean Stacker would like have to build their own API? I don't know, build their own API? I have no idea.
Yeah.
Exactly what that means.
If the data is stored in Stacker, more or less, and if you wanted to use, they're already partnering with like Salesforce and Google Sheets and Airtable, but if you had some other fourth thing that isn't one of those, your data is just in Stacker with Integromat or Zapier or something. But in terms of flexibility, you would want that API because there's only so much Integromat / Zapier / et cetera can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the site for it, basically really, heralds this kind of new thing without code, which is interesting, which was kind of always, I thought, kind of their modus operandi before. But again, if these are some of their customers, maybe the reason we haven't seeing as much out of them as we have out of Softer, Softer's been getting money hand over fist, and then B, they might have the money now with this customer base just to build a back end. But I think people use Airtable not because it has the prettiest front end, because it's got the most robust back end. It's like Stackers invented lipstick and now they're going to try to make pig out of it. It's actually backward. So I'm all for it, but man, my whole point is this: we're going to see a lot of consolidation in the next 12 months as all these people who've, and trust me, I bet the farm on one of these groups too, have to pull back and figure out what they're doing when Airtable comes out with something. That's my only fear. Because a lot of these customers who've spent money on Softer, Stacker, Pori, etc., they've also invested people time, right? So they've got training costs and their own portals and things like that. And then Airtable comes along, but we'll see. Neil probably knows more than I do because I feel like there's been changes in the matrix, but recently.
Not necessarily like a knowledge, because your guess is as good as mine to whenever Airtable builds some sort of front end something, and I don't know what that something is. If it's just a minor sort of front end component, or if it's as robust as say Softer or Pori, where it's a whole website or something that you would build. I don't know, and we likely won't know until, I'm guessing, I have no facts to base this on public, but I'm guessing not until 2023, not next year, the year after, whatever that thing might be. And you kind of look at it twofold. So if Airtable comes out with a solution that is roughly the equivalent of Softer, let's say, the people who currently use Airtable are not going to need Softer, et cetera. And you don't have to pay for the thing twice because it'll be part of Airtable. You only have to pay for Airtable, not Airtable and Softer. So, that's way down the line.
But yeah, it was good. The only other, I think, news I had was there's, I think Webflow is having their no code conf. I don't know if any of you guys are Webflow people. I know I've always been really impressed by Webflow. I've considered using them on multiple occasions. The learning overhead for my ADHD it was too much. But what I thought was nice about their conference was, guess who's speaking? Woo!
Yay.
Ooh, Aaron.
Woo! Aaron, if you're watching, look. Okay. So yeah, they've got, I don't know any of these other speakers, but I thought it was nice that Aaron was there. Bubble, Webflow, Tricks, Jen.
Their website design looks similar to Aaron's.
Oh yeah, maybe he designed it.
The color scheme and the artwork style, it's like what's currently trendy or something now.
Yeah.
Old
But it's,
sponsor, Stacker.
Yeah, I
And
saw
Bubble.
that too. I saw that too. Camille, I was like, do we mention it? Yeah, I thought that was really interesting too. And to get Amazon to sponsor, that's a big deal.
Also, as a point of comparison, Bubble is another front-end builder that is agnostic towards your data source, and they have their own internal database that
Yeah.
you could use. You don't necessarily have to import
Yeah.
data from Airtable, et cetera.
I remember when Bubble added their Airtable connector, and I thought, okay, finally, but then I read too many bad things about it. Speaking of website design, can I show you guys on the website that's unrelated to any of this? You see this FinSuite website or this company? I went to this website the other day. This guy, I think he does no code on Bubble. I'll know in a second when I click on it. But I thought he had the coolest website. I don't know why I'm showing this to you because I didn't plan on doing it, but hopefully this is it. It had like some funky, oh yeah. So watch this guy. And I think, because, again, he made, Webflow sites. And I love this pitch me hard he's got. So I'll show you this. But what I thought was great about this site is watch what happens to the line when you move the site. Oh, the line just moves, right? I mean, who doesn't want a lion that just gets out of the way? And then he's got some great sites he's developed. Again, these sites, they're kind of fluid. They're kind of fluid within the site itself. Isn't that hot?
That reminds me
Again,
of the Apple website.
oh, look, is that Aaron's site?
Yep.
That is,
So now we know the secret to Aaron's site. It was designed by this guy.
I don't think
All
it's
right.
a secret. I think it says on the bottom.
Oh, does I've never looked at the bottom of it. So Aaron's on Webflow. That I did not know.
Yeah, it says, you could see it in the thumbnail. It says FinSuite at the bottom.
Oh, look at that. But then he had something else. Okay, this is long and hard. I didn't realize it was going to go so far. Maybe when he said pitch me hard. Oh yeah, when the pitch me hard had a really great little form. I don't know who's doing his form or if this is Webflow, but this is a hot little form. Very clean. Oh, see that little explosion at the top when you get to the bottom? See the FinSuite explode?
so that scrolling thing reminds me of this on Apple. Chris, I think you just got this new MacBook, but when you
Yeah, I
scroll
did.
down and you get to this point, if you just keep scrolling, it like opens the MacBook
Yeah.
and then spins it around, and then you can keep scrolling and it keeps doing cool stuff like that.
That's cool. Speaking of that, let me show you, like, since we're talking about cool websites, watch what happens. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but if you're in Airtable and you get to like the bottom of a list, so I'm going to go to because I don't think I've demoed this for you, and I wasn't really supposed to talk about this yet, but when you get to the bottom of this view, watch what happens. See, so I'm going to go in a month view. You ready? Nothing. It's static. It looks like it looks dead. That's what happens. So Airtable, catch us up. Give us a front end with lions moving, laptops opening, Aaron's face spinning.
I don't, just as a point of devil's advocate, not even devil's advocate, because I actually have this opinion. I hate websites that are constantly moving around. It annoys me to no end. I just
really-
want to read the text.
It's
I don't-
entertaining the first time. It's annoying after the third.
It's the most obnoxious trend in web design, and I hope it dies next year. But not
I
everyone
really
thinks
was
like
joking.
me.
I'm sorry. I just was trying to make the case that maybe something between Dead on Arrival
Yes,
and a moving
there's a
lion.
happy middle, in between the two extremes. But I've been on some websites where literally everything would just jump. If you looked at it weird, it would move. Ugh.
Yeah. So any more news? Let me check the Twitter on Airtable. Group's been pretty active. People have been super duper good to each other. We did have that kind of crazy thing earlier in the week, but I messaged Ben, hopefully got rid of it. Somebody was like, I don't want to spend the money. And then he was like, can I trust someone from country X? And I was like, can we not literally drag other countries to the ground in the middle of the group? And then he basically told me to F myself. And I'm like, okay, that's ban hammer. Yeah.
I don't know if this is relevant, or maybe I went over this in last week, but when you guys were talking about trying stuff moving on website and then things not moving on Airtable, one thing I would really wish that moved on Airtable is, so this is like my CRM. So say I wanted to move this field to the top. If I try to drag this, I can drag it there, but then like,
But it doesn't have a shadow. When there's no shadow, it's not actually being dragged.
yeah. Yeah. So I just have to keep like dragging it a little bit, drag it a little bit, and then scroll up.
That feels like a bug to me.
Yeah.
It does this anywhere for me. So like if I try to drop it there, where to go?
Yep. That
Report it to support.
that doesn't feel like a feature.
It is unfortunate. Happens in all my client bases on Chrome or in the app. And my faces. But Chris, you were going to share something?
Yeah, I was just going to say if there's anything new on Airtable. I saw that Microsoft came out with a Notion clone. I can't remember what they're calling it. Something looks like, I can't remember what it was called. No, I was going to check the Twitter. Did anyone make it to the table talk last week? I only caught the last end of it.
I was probably there. I don't recall.
Was it the one about collaboration?
Yeah, I think that was it.
I think I might have attended that one. I think I attended that one.
Did Airtable get a new sync source? I saw something, maybe it was their new in 2. It seemed like there was another sync source with like Box or something.
I don't know if it was necessarily new or if it was a beta that was made official.
I
And
think it was that.
I think it was Zendesk.
Mm.
And then there was another one. Maybe I want to say something to do with GitHub. Or I have no idea. Did you guys?
That's been in beta for a while. The GitHub one, I recall seeing it a while ago as a beta.
Now, this is the first time I just found this. This is the first time I've seen this. I see it all the time, like in free workspaces. You'll see like the pro upgrade thing. You'll see like pro with like the little.
Oh, now it's gonna.
It's got enterprise there.
Oh.
Like they're trying.
Well, they want people to upgrade.
I wonder if it says that in the free plan. If I go to a free workspace and try to sync.
I spent this week trying to investigate how much work it would take to move off of Dropbox to Box just so I could use the Box integration.
Is it hard?
It's not hard, but it's definitely time consuming. And then I'd be way over my data for the month. So it'd probably cost me a couple $100 just to do it.
Sounds like.
But I really, 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 really want the native file storage integration so I can get out of storing stuff on Airtable.
I think I tried that with one of them. And doesn't it just bring in a list of your files? It
I've
didn't.
seen a video. I've never tried it.
I would try with a few files before you make for the whole commitment, because it didn't seem all that useful. Personally.
I could see it being vaguely useful in that Airtable attachments are public. So if you just have the link to the attachment, you could just get to it. Whereas if they're not being brought over to Airtable and it's just a list of your stuff from Box with a link to the actual file, you have much greater control over what you can actually see. Because I think if you have the link to the Box file, it's still password protected or hidden behind your account or something, I believe. So that could be an advantage.
Makes sense.
I just connected to my Box, but it doesn't do much. I guess I have an old Box account. I have to connect to my Box account. And then I guess I don't have anything in Box, so it's not letting me do anything here.
Did you select?
I don't think I have. Well, yeah, are you saying just select the root folder? I mean, just
Yeah.
select all files?
Well, what does the second box input do? It's
So
a
I
blue
can
plus
search.
sign.
Yeah, well, this is grayed out. There's an X, there's a plus where I can.
I feel like we might not be seeing something because we don't see a whole screen.
If I'm sharing the browser, shouldn't.
Well, I can see the whole thing. I was saying underneath where it says select your Box account, the next input, was there nothing for you to do?
Let me get back there. I somehow
I
jumped
think
out.
there was
I'm
a
gonna upload. Am I sharing now or no?
Yes, you've uploaded something.
Yeah. So it says, so now I've uploaded something. Select more files, maybe. Okay, but see, it doesn't let me do anything. I say close. And then what you tell me to click where now, Camille?
Well, now I don't know where we are anymore.
Okay. So if I come in here, if I come in and go to Safari and I say so I connected to my Box account and then select the root folder. So I select from Box.
Okay, yeah. So now we're not seeing whatever it is you were doing before.
Okay, so I guess it brings up a modal that doesn't share. Let me just share my whole screen. So what happens is I say select from Box, and then it gives me, can you see it now? It's probably really small though.
Oh, you have to select a folder.
Yeah, but I don't have I've got files, I don't have a folder. So I could select this, but it's grayed out.
Does it let you select your root folder as a default? Was that the option?
Well,
It doesn't look like it.
Yeah, because I can't even click this blue X.
And,
I wonder if I need
the plus button is only to upload. It's not create a new folder.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I could do a new folder. Test for video. Okay, that's highlighted. Okay, let me do that.
Yeah, so do that. Yeah, it was asking you what folder it wants to pull
And I didn't
in
have
from.
any, so now it does, right?
Yeah, I think that was the.
So this is interesting. So let's just say this was full of files. Then I could use these files and link these files. So in my case, like when I have a presentation, like I'm doing for a company, like I've got like a bunch of talks I do, right? I could actually have this be a link over to the actual files that were in Box.
Yeah.
Okay. And that would keep me from having a giant upload of gigs and gigs and gigs of files.
Yeah, it's a trade-off between filling up your, I don't know, 20 gigabyte limit per base versus the number of records you get per base, because each of the items from your synced table, each of your files coming in from Box is going to count as its own record.
Yeah, because I'm really close on space and I'm starting to freak out. How do I check the space again?
Or your account.
You go to the workspace settings.
Workspace.
Haven't you said before they just like don't really care?
I've never had them care. I've gone over on records. I've never gone over on space. Space is kind of what's worrying me.
Yeah, I like how they color code it.
Yeah, I'm at 4911 of 50,000.
That's super close.
Yeah, so it might not be the best solution for you because if you have,
Okay, that's records. Space. I'm
Well,
at 14 gig or 20.
but still, if you have, 100 or so files coming in from Box, that means you're at 49,511.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So
Yeah.
that I could break through that limit
Yeah.
before I break through the space limit.
Could be.
Okay. Well, hopefully by the end of the year they'll have some plan that lives between here and enterprise, because I need 100,000 and twice the space yesterday.
That brings us back to our 12-month predictions.
Yeah, we should bring those up. Do we have those anywhere?
Yeah, I can bring them up real fast. The number one prediction that we had though was that they'd have a front end within 12 months of our predictions.
So how many
Like
months left do we have on that?
A user portal. Gotta get my terminology right for the. So you can see when these were created.
I don't know about you guys, but I live to add the create date to tables that I forgot to add it in, just so I can time travel in my mind to see when I was doing stuff.
So this happened in April, beginning of.
We got time. Do we have who said what predictions?
Yes, we do. We just need to unhide.
Okay. Oh, I say record counts doubled. See, that was okay. I'm bringing it. It looks like we did this on purpose, but we did not.
We should go through this and see what's happened so far. Has it been 6? 4 plus 6 would be 10. So it has.
We might be at the 10 billion valuation. I have to go look. But the other 4 are not there.
I did see they posted something about someone's base that I'm guessing they submitted to the Airtable universe like 6 or 8 months ago, and they were like shouting this person out because it was about COVID and like they were tracking COVID cases. So I'm guessing based on our talk like last week, they've gotten to their Airtable universe bases or marketplace bases in like the waiting period.
Yeah, I still think universe is kind of an overhaul. Yeah.
Bidirectional sync has not happened. Space limits. Still not.
I don't know. I think my predictions are aggressive, and I think they will make me look like a Cassandra. People will like, how? I'm telling you. So come on, my predictions. Could you see any of those things happening in any order? Can you get back to mine?
I mean,
I'd love to get.
I've found that Airtable does what Airtable wants to do. Sometimes it matches up with what people want and what they think. Sometimes it does something that people weren't expecting at all, and they realize, wow, that was something that's really useful. And then sometimes they do things where like, what was the point?
Oh, could you see any of these things happening in my time frame?
I mean, they could, yeah. I mean, for all we know, they've been working on this behind the scenes for quite a while.
So you're saying, yes, these things could happen. Camille, what are you saying? Any of these?
They've already talked about bidirectional sync. So I imagine they've been working on it since the inception of the sync feature to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So that one I, am the most confident on. The other ones, it's not necessarily that I don't think they'll happen. It's that I'm not sure whether or not they'll happen within the next 12 months since April. Or
Do any of these seem out of bounds to you? Like there's no way that's happening.
I can't read Howie's mind, so I'll put that one as the least sort of
There are
probable. I don't know.
Changing Howie leaving would be 24 months.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
This person wants IGTV automations. I don't think those have came. I think Zapier would break on the limit on the gigabytes for how big an IGTV would be. Let's see.
Yeah.
Capture still does not happen. Unlimited records.
That's not going to happen.
I don't think it's ever going to be unlimited unless you're enterprise. Probably, maybe. I don't know.
Is enterprise unlimited now?
I don't think it is. I'm saying
No,
if
it's
they were
not.
going to add unlimited, it would probably only be for enterprise clients.
I couldn't see them ever having unlimited records.
I feel
Neither
like
can I. I'm saying the one chance that they might, maybe, is if
I
it.
couldn't even see them doing it on enterprise.
if somebody accidentally like somehow got like 100 million records in a base, Airtable would shut down. Like everybody's bases would be like not able to be accessed.
I could
Devin-
see them potentially having
Devin.
insanely high record limits, but I can't see them having no record limits at all.
We
Agreed.
need Devin. Devin needs to create a Zap and just bring down Airtable.
So just generally doubling the existing record limits at whatever they are per level, I think is definitely probable within, I'll say, a year from now, November.
Someone write down
4th,
Camille's
whatever.
Camille's
You
predictions.
can add it to this base or whatever. That one's probably going to happen.
12
Trip-
months from November 2021, double
Yeah.
records. I love that we have fantasy football for Airtable.
Let's see.
Signature capture.
I feel like I've heard this a few times recently.
It would be nice. So, Dan from OpenSide showed me one of his implementations that took advantage of, he made his own JSON field type. It's just a long text
Just a
field
long,
that,
yeah.
that he formats as what would be readable in JSON. It would be nice if you could just have a JSON field type.
I don't think there's going to be a JSON field type because you can just use a long text field as JSON. So why? The only reason you're going to have a JSON field type is because some kind of code is going to interact with it, because it's not meant for humans. If you're going to have some kind of code that's going to interact with it, then it can interact with it just as easily as with the long text field. And then you have to have all the overhead of, well, what if people mess it up and put invalid JSON in there? And
Well, if
how would
it's a
you
field type, then you can't put in invalid.
Yeah, but why would they go in and add, basically all they would do is they'd have to write a whole bunch of code that would validate JSON.
Yep.
And I just don't see the particular value to Airtable to doing that, whereas people can already use the long text fields as JSON, and then they just have to tell people, don't mess with it. So
Yeah, they could.
if
I'm
the
not-
extra
I'm not-
work on Airtable's point, I don't see them doing it because it's a lot of work for them for very little return.
I'm not saying they're going to do it. I'm
Yeah.
saying it's nice to do it. It would be a field of value.
I guess I don't think it would be as of much value because I don't see how that would really make it any. I guess I don't see the increase in value type. I actually prefer having fewer field types. Like I wish we didn't have half a dozen single line text field types, because technically a single line text field, that's what phone fields, emails, URLs, those are all single line text fields. So the only thing that it gives you is a little icon. I wish there were fewer of these different field types, so it would be less confusing when you're trying to pick which one there is, and then have some other way of having an icon to go with the field types. So I would rather they didn't have a JSON field type.
I am against a JSON field type as well
And what's your reasoning?
because I dislike coding and directly related.
That's not a reason.
No, you don't have to know how to code in order to use JSON.
Well, I think
You
it.
just have to, you use code, or I have a formula. My ready-made formulas will build the JSON for you.
And there's the sales pitch.
But that's like.
Come on, Camille.
my-
Drop an app, Camille. Come on.
No.
No.
It doesn't go with the no code like mantra that I push. So I have a client that just came here. They have a lot of code in their automations and they hate it. And so we're moving it all to like everything that was built in code in their Zapier automations or Airtable automations. We looked through it and everything's gonna be able to be done without code. And then they'll be able to edit it too.
Well, what are they, when they're moving it without code, you're not taking away the code, you're just shifting what the code looks like.
Yes.
I mean,
correct.
technically.
I mean, you
Kavan's
might have
got
code
a
that's in
killer
JavaScript,
point.
you might have code that's in a formula field, or you might have code that's in a Zapier scenario. It's still code if it's in Zapier scenario.
So we're making it all in like natural language, I guess. Maybe that's a draw.
Ben, you're kind of, Ben, you just need to back away. You basically just, you
It's-
farted in church with
It's
Kavan
fine.
and Kamille.
It's fine if you don't want the field type. I want the field type, but if you're not going to use it, you just don't have to use
Yeah.
it. So to Kavan's earlier point, you mentioned there being a bunch of different type of single line text fields and the difference being formatting technically. It's the same with numbers. Number is a separate field from currency, which is a separate field from
Percent
which
and
you-
duration
well, duration.
and rating.
I would say duration makes sense to be separate. Time is a
Okay.
horse of a different color.
Well, but it's
Then-
basically a number.
It is technically a number, but it's
Yeah.
it's sufficiently different enough where I would say it would make sense. The average person doesn't think in H:/MM:SS,
It
but they
is
understand the
radically
number
different.
42.
Yeah. But they're all numbers. It's different.
They are numbers, and the difference being how any Benjamin, cover your ears, how any script or API handles the data that it's coming from. So
Can I point out
Because
something
they're-
else? They
yes.
upgraded that I forgot to tell you guys. We missed this in the news, and this has maybe happened 2 months ago, but I don't know if anyone remembers when this happened. I think it was 2 months ago. I love the fact you can just go to Airtable now and your bases are an option, because you used to log into Airtable and you couldn't get to the Airtable website. Do you guys remember those days?
Oh, I hated that.
Okay. Does anyone remember those days besides Kavan?
I just have mine bookmarked though.
Well, for
Yeah, but
me,
I'm
if I
so-
just type in airtable.com, it'll get me to my bases. If I go to airtable.com/home, that was a problem because bases wasn't there before, but now it's there, so it doesn't matter.
And it got me thinking, we were looking at all those websites earlier. Let's pretend none of us know Airtable. Like we don't know the name. We don't know anything about it. Airtable's a pretty crap site if you look at it. Like it really doesn't tell you much about it. One platform, products. Like most people would go, oh, Airtable, what's the product? They click on product and go, well, what's the product? You know what I'm saying?
Then
I
you
mean, I would go to overview. I mean, that's just me, but it seems pretty clear.
To me, I wouldn't even be looking at their website unless I already knew that I wanted it.
See, this I think it really opens up an interesting set of things to think about. Because like if you use like beginner's mind and look at the site, like does it make sense to you? So does that mean everyone who goes to Airtable already knows what they want?
They probably heard the term somewhere because Airtable isn't like a thing you accidentally type into it. The address bar, you probably, oh yeah, I had an Airtable. I don't know what that is, airtable.com. And then the question is, do you understand what a database is? You might sort of kind of get what the interface looks like based on all of their screenshots. But if you don't know what a database does or this particular type of database, then you probably are going to come away confused unless you read the support article like, what is a relational database? So that could probably be more
maybe
clear.
no
more up front.
code, like maybe just like even the concept of no code needs to be re-engineered. Like what does that mean? Because to Kavan's point earlier, everything is code.
Well, not everything is code,
I would
mean,
actually argue it is.
but
That's-
a lot is, and a lot of it runs on code. It's just a question of what does the code look like and who wrote it? Did you have to write it yourself? Did you get it from someone reputable? Did you get it from somewhere and it's just someone that doesn't have any reputation? And how much do you trust the code writer?
I'm gonna also add a prediction. This whole website is overhauled by the end of this year. That's less than 2 months. I know it's aggressive, but now that I'm looking at this site, this Howie, I know you watch. Get someone on this. You've got the money. This has got to go. Chop.
get it on Webflow.
Have Aaron build it. He can run education. He's already doing marketing and content. He can do front end. I know Aaron, I know you're watching it too, Aaron. You're probably watching with Howie. You probably get popcorn and come to off the record. I think we could get this site redone.
Back to our discussion, Kuovonne, I don't think anything that I build is code. And I don't even think formulas, I would not consider them code because I think that's too.
I would.
Have you, okay,
I
Ben,
think
this
not
is the
all
second
formulas
time
are
tonight.
cool. It
This is the
is,
second time tonight, Ben. You're going to get in
it
trouble.
really, have you seen some of the formulas, what formulas can do? I mean, I've had formulas that are like 100 lines long. I don't see how you can possibly think that that's not code.
Ben,
The
Yeah,
simplest
Ben.
computer, the first computer program is Hello World. Okay, yeah, it wasn't my daughter's first computer program because her computer science class is weird. But really, traditionally, the first computer program is Hello World, and the second one is like 1+1. It's still code. And getting people to realize that that's code, and then that code, it's just an extension of these simple things that you've been doing since elementary school.
That's what I say
And then you won't be afraid of it.
I think
Then
we
you
have
can
to-
say, I don't care about it. I don't want to use it. It's too complicated. I don't like algebra or whatever. That's fine.
Part of the problem with code and traditional code and the way people think about code now, and I hate this just to, because I don't want to side with Ben or you guys, is it comes with a culture. And you both know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a
And that-
connotation.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't, and I hate this. I love you and Kamille and Kuovonne a lot, but the culture that surrounds code to me feels and always has felt toxic. And this goes back in the 80s.
I think that
So-
culture has changed.
Hmm.
And I think it is changing. And I think it will continue to change.
I hope so.
I mean,
I
really,
mean,
one of
when
my
I-
first experience with code was me trying to learn how to teach myself how to code and crying on the floor of my bedroom.
As you
And
do.
I was like, and it's like, no. And then I come back and I'm revisiting what it means to code. And it's a totally different experience.
Yeah.
And the people that I'm interacting are totally different. And like, I wake up and I'm like, yes, I want to do code. I don't wake up thinking, oh my gosh, this is so hard. No one will help me and everything is crap. And why can't I
I mean,
do this?
to me, the Airtable conference last year that you both spoke at, like, opened my eyes 1,000,000%, because I literally got the feeling things are moving in the right direction. I mean, everything from what Kamille showed to like when she held up her sock to Kuovonne, you got on, and I don't know if you remember your performance at the conference, but you got on and you just chopped wood. You were like, and this and this and this. You were just on point. You didn't sound like you didn't know what you're talking about. It made sense. It was clear. I don't know. I'll tend to agree with you. I hope. Well, I'm gonna have to go back to. I hope it's moving in the right direction. It still feels sticky to me. That's why I don't go to the actual Airtable community. It just feels weird. I don't know how to describe it.
Oh, well, part of it is I like to think of, so when you're teaching a kindergartner how to read and how to write,
Mhm.
and they read one word and you're like, you're reading. They write 2 words and they are writers, and they are. Now they're doing it at a kindergarten level, but that is what reading and writing is. And so all these other things, they are code. They're just maybe kindergarten level code, but it's the same concept. And then it's just up to you to decide how much further do you want to take it. But even if you're doing at these basic levels, it is reading, it is writing, it is coding.
I did SQL
But
and
you don't
Oracle
have
database.
to do that.
I did SQL scripting all through the 90s and the early 2000s. I never considered myself a coder, but I know, and I get that now, right? Writing SQL scripts to create views and things. It seems that way, but to me, coding didn't become coding until it became, I hate to say it, but cultish. It used to be so much I don't want to say that because that's wrong too. It wasn't simpler.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just old. Just ignore me.
But there's definitely niches. It's a huge broad range. I mean, there are writers, but someone who writes, plays or screens or for scripts for films is totally different from someone who writes poetry, which is totally different from the kind of person who would write, say, articles in a travel magazine. And it's okay that they're but they all are writing. And so that's what I'm saying. It's all code. Just so that it doesn't mean that you have to do all kinds of code. I don't think there's anyone on this earth who can do all kinds of code. But
I think there's a certain type of witchcraft that comes from people who can create something that suddenly has buttons and functionality. I think the allure to Airtable, before I go any further down that rabbit hole, was you and Kamille have this magic. I think the allure to Airtable is people feel somewhat like they can do magic. But when you look at the types of stuff that you guys produce over, is it written in C? What do you guys write in over on in the app?
It's
JavaScript.
all JavaScript.
JavaScript. Okay.
Airtable itself is built out of JavaScript, and all of their scripting stuff, including the custom apps environment, is JavaScript as well,
But
or
when
React if you want to be more specific.
When we see you guys create stuff in React with buttons and like Kamille, your room conference server, that looks like magic, you know. But I know to you, it's just like no big deal.
No, I think I think you're right. It kind of is magic. Like my daughter will take a pencil and she will draw someone's portrait with a number 2 pencil, and that's magic.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just different levels, and code doesn't necessarily have to put buttons on a screen. I mean, it's just such a huge thing, and I wish people weren't afraid of it. You don't have to do it. You don't have to like doing it, but please don't think that it's something to be afraid of.
Yeah,
Ben,
I kind of think of the no code sort of world in 2 ways. One, I'm struggling to think of a no code solution that doesn't include some sort of console where you would either put in your own code or insert code from somewhere else. Even Pori, if you want to include custom something in the header, you insert HTML. HTML is a coding language. And then 2, you can do a lot of what you want to do without code if you want to use Zapier or Integromat. Or you could build the solution for yourself if you want. And I think of that kind of dichotomy in terms of you could build your own custom solution like Dr. Frankenstein and assemble a bunch of pieces together from pre-made components like Zapier or Integromat and wait for lightning to strike and then yell, it's alive. Or you could adopt a son. You know, that's my way of putting it. Now, the process of adopting someone is very long and hard. It's not easy, but it is relatively less obscure once you sort of read the instructions for how to adopt someone. That's kind of my strange analogy to the world.
Well, it's interesting because using the adoption analogy lends this idea to, is it really yours if you didn't make all the pieces? You know,
that's true. Is it really Dr. Frankenstein's if you've assembled things from parts you robbed from a grave?
And what happens if the people he robbed were adopted?
Exactly. This terrible
metaphor.
Meta.
Okay.
Speaking of meta.
All right. Yeah.
Oh,
it's top of the hour. Speaking of meta, what?
The metaverse.
Oh, let's not go there. By the way, I don't. Yeah, I don't want to talk about. I'm going to say one thing about it. I'm pro metaverse. I understand, and people love to hate on Mark Zuckerberg. I get it. It's awkward, but like the time to bring down Facebook and beat your chest about how horrible it was a decade ago.
I think
people doing it now are so virtue signaling, and it makes me just sick.
I think people don't realize that there's a difference between Facebook the app and Facebook the company, and that them going to metaverse is not actually the app going to metaverse. It's Facebook the company not branding themselves as just that Facebook app. But that's all that I know.
I have, let me see if I can find it real quick. I have a great slide that I got from Facebook. I don't know how long ago. It shows, I found it. Let me show it to you. And I used to show this at conferences all the time, and people just would lose their minds. So this is the,
is it possible to make this skinnier as well?
I'm gonna do both. Is that skinnier and bigger?
Yeah.
So this was Google's trajectory, right? All no interface. This was Amazon's. And these were really easy to do back in the day because these were like literally happening. This stuff's almost a decade old now. But this is not something I made. This was literally Facebook's 10-year roadmap from 2015. So this is 6 years old, right? And it wasn't staggered. I did this so I could do a build when I'm in front of people. This was it. And I think it's really interesting if you look at where they said they were 6 years ago, which would put us 4 years from this. They're right on track.
They are right
These things, yep. And this is an old slide I got from a Facebook thing I did.
They've really been promoting groups as well. So that's right on track with where they're currently kind of landing.
You know, sorry, I hated to bring up slides.
I think coding makes sense for what Kamille does in Airtable. I don't consider it anywhere else.
Well, I think to one of Kuovonne's earlier point, what I do is coding so I can provide someone else with a no code solution.
Yeah.
It's still coding. I just did it for you.
If you looked at, like, this is like Airtable's big promise is like their tagline or whatever is we democratize software creation. And I think they do that through providing a no code playground or sandbox. I don't know what to call it, but it's, you jump in there, and unless you know that the scripting app is free on the free plan now, you don't immediately go try to write code in there, and it doesn't seem scary like code.
No, usually you don't just code for the heck of it. You find out what your limits are, and then you say, oh, well, I can't do that with the interface, or I can't do that with an automation. I need a script. Either I write it or someone else writes it for me. Your sort of trajectory is you start off with Airtable's boilerplate sort of stuff, and it'll get you, I'm going to make a number up, 80% of the way there for most of the people who try Airtable in the first project they build. They probably can get most of the way there, and then they'll hit some kind of roadblock because Airtable's not a perfect product. As much as I love it, it has its limitations, and sometimes to get around it, you need Integramat or Zapier to do something, or if you want to do it more in-house, so you're only dealing with one company, then you would look at the scripting app as like your first sort of foray.
I've been keeping a list, and I've only found so far 2 reasons where I actually need code in a database. And I could use Integramat for one of them, but one of them is deleting a record, because Airtable currently doesn't have, or Zapier doesn't have a no code way to delete a record.
Yep.
And then the other one is reordering linked records. Those are the only 2.
Technically, the batch update app will allow you to do that.
Yeah.
You can only do it through the batch update app, though.
Yeah, I'm thinking like with an automation.
Yeah, then you would need
reordering linked records is like, oh, that's such a thing. But like we talk about code, I think another thing you guys are talking about is what is software?
I think it's okay if it's built on code as long as it doesn't look like it.
But like, what is software? Like if we have this open thing about code, I just think the other day I was talking to I have a 10-year-old sister-in-law. It's weird because people think she's my daughter, but I've known her since she was 4. And we bought an arcade machine from Sam's Club, and she was asking about the screen, and then we had to turn it off and back on for something to do a firmware update. And she said, well, wait a minute, if Pac-Man is the software and what's the hardware? And I said, well, it's the screen, it's the joystick. She goes, then what's the firmware? And like, just explaining to her the difference between those 3 things was kind of overwhelming. And it really got me thinking, like, and we're all over 30, I think. Kamille, are you over 30? No?
I am 27.
You're young. I mean, I really thought you were over 30. You carry yourself much older. Ben, are you over 30?
I'm an old man.
I am.
Yeah.
22.
Okay. All right. But it really makes me wonder, like, are we literally at the end of software or hardware as we know it? Because if we would have got 10 years from now for both of you, will we even think about these things? Because so much of my life, at least, is done through things without an interface, talking to stuff, using things that just interface to other things, like my new Facebook glasses. It's just like, when I first got Google Glass, it was kind of amazing. I could see things overlaid on the world. This is like almost 10 years ago, and I could hear things, and I could have that interface be there. But like now, just like thinking about all of these things, you know, the democratization of code, at the end of the day, isn't just software the ability to have information on demand and have access to things you wouldn't normally have access to? Isn't software just an interface to everything you'd want to do anyway, regardless of what the software does? People, places, things. Isn't software just experience?
Yeah, I would call it the end product, if you will.
I just think we're at the end of software.
Well,
I think we're at the beginning of something.
remember computers, the software on your computers used to be exclusively referred to as programs. And now,
Yeah.
depending on what operating system you're on, they're referred to as apps, because apps became a thing for mobile operating systems, and they, progressed upwards into desktop/laptop environments. And there seems to be, if you're a Mac user, there's more interplay between various different devices using a particular piece of software in concert. So I think there's generally a shift happening, I guess. To me, it's all terminology based, and there's functionally no difference between a program and an app. And
Chris?
also software. I consider all of those three to be synonyms.
But
Maybe
the end feature of software and an app is access.
Sure.
Well, maybe they're gonna drop the soft or the hard, and it's just gonna be like wear.
Yeah.
Like you're just gonna like wear your glasses or wear your AI.
Yeah, we'll see. Esoteric talk. Sorry about that, but it really got me thinking. Let me do some Palo Santo. Get rid of the evil spirits. I always love how YouTubers do this when they're showing something. I think it's for the light reflection.
It's autofocus on a camera.
Oh, is that why they do it?
Yes.
It focused nice when you did that. Yeah.
Oh, that's so. I did not know. Okay, so if I just hold this up, I literally need to pretend like I'm a YouTuber.
Sometimes if you put an object in front, it will read it, but it usually helps to put skin. This is why they always put their hand behind.
You guys make me feel like such a older gentleman of the tech world.
Chris is frozen.
Yeah, I just like doing that face.
Well, we've been off the rails for most of tonight. I don't.
Wait, one more little thing. I want to do it. This is one of my books from 2016. Every year I have my entire life printed. Places I went.
That year.
Food I ate. Yeah, for the whole year. Doesn't everyone do that?
Powered
Yes,
by.
we went off the rails. Howie definitely does.
Kamille, do you have any apps coming out that we can demo in coming weeks?
I keep delaying the release of my records.
What does that one do?
It for any table, if you have a collaborator field, you can open up the app and it'll show you every record that has been assigned to you across all tables.
Huge.
So usually everyone would create their own personal view that just said filter where collaborator equals me. You would, if you have 5 people in your base, that's 5 views per table. That's annoying. So what my app would allow you to do is for one table or all of the tables or any number of tables, select a starter view. So if you want to show all records that are open or not complete, you can have one view for everybody that filters not complete. And then looking at that view in the app will only show you things that have been assigned to you.
That's hot.
And if you don't use collaborators and you instead use linked records, it would do the same thing for linked records. So wherever that record is linked to any of the other tables.
That's awesome.
So it's more or less done. I'm being petty about how it looks and behaves. The functionality has already been sort of squared away a while ago, but eventually that'll be out by the end of the year when I am happy with it. Like all of my apps, that would be a subscription-based thing to get all of the features unlocked. Some of the features would be free. I am currently working on, I guess I'm going to put this on the universe when it's done, a sort of auto reporting starter base. Something I've noticed, that I can show really quickly. If I share my screen really quick. So something I've kind of noticed people want is if they have a bunch of records and they want to say, I want to see all of the record, I want a report of all of the records from 2021 or from 2021 October. What I'm doing is I'm sort of building a base that lets you select a date, and then it'll output all of the report periods that would be. So the date October 26, 2021 would be a part of the following reports: 2021, the whole year, the fourth quarter of 2021, the 10th month of 2021, and the 44th week of 2021. So it's going to have an automation that copies this string that's automatically sort of generated into this linked to another record table, which means it's creating a report record for each of the things. And a series of formulas behind the scenes are going to convert it automatically to the start and end date for whatever that period would be. So if we look at the quarter, the fourth quarter of 2021 starts on October the 1st and ends on December 31st of 2021, which means you'd be able to look at things on a timeline view pretty nicely. And because everything is linked together, that means roll-ups, you would be anything that came across in, that quarter. We'll pick a new month, so you'll see a little bit of difference. I don't know if this automation is on, so I can wait a second for it to copy things, or I'll do it myself. It did it already. You can kind of see the fourth quarter, there should be 2 records, right? So it'll add everything up together for each of these different time periods, which you'd be able to see on the timeline. And you could take this and use Page Designer if you were so inclined, or use any of the other report document builders if you wanted to show line items for each thing. So if you wanted to show this is a list for the year of 2021 as a PDF, you'd be able to do that now in Page Designer, because you would be able to format all of the linked records as a list. So this is a pretty simple, I say it's pretty simple.
You always say that.
Right. We're not looking at a whole bunch of fields, and that's kind of what I mean. And this doesn't require scripting so far. This automation, I think, is about, I don't think that's the right one. My kind of Zoom stuff is in the way. Oh, it is the right one. It's a literal 1-step action where it's just copying the value of that formula output into the linked record thing. So it's the automation itself is, I think, the simplest automation you could make. There's no scripting.
All the time, except I don't do the period start and end, so that's awesome. And then I typically have like a base for months and a base for weeks and a base for not usually years, but it's just grouped by years. But I do the same automation to copy and paste it and then do roll-ups.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty go-to sort of process. I've just done it in a way it'll build things for you. So this I would have to explain to people probably how to format this, but I've used a single date time format to take one date and format it as the year, and then the year --Q, and then the year --M, and then all of these substitutes are converting it. So I can say, I know that this format is a week versus a month. So the reason for that is, if it was just 2021-11, is that the 11th month or the 11th week? So that's why I had to do this -month-11. So I know it's the 11th month and this is the 45th week.
Wow.
Going back to the reports, what this is doing is it's a simple switch, finding if the middle portion is MO, then it's month. If it's QR, then it's quarter, yada, yada. Based on that, then output whatever the correct date time parse format is. So that's either, it's basically doing the same thing I did before, but in reverse to extract out, this is in the format 2021 2021-MO-11. So get that into 2021-11. And then these two fields are then computing what the start and end time would be based on whether or not it's a month or a quarter, a week, a year, yada, 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 yada. So all of this stuff, each field probably represents a question that's been asked multiple times on the forums or in the community Facebook group or anywhere. And then this one base is just putting it all in one spot. And I think I'm done. I don't know what else I would do to it.
And I thought I was like breaking new ground when I made mine tell me if it was winter, spring season, depending on which month it fell in. I love the fact you've got the quarters in here. Did you say you did zoom in on that a little bit? Sorry.
Well, hopefully this will work. Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, it's better. Okay. That's hot.
So you know, you can see here, year, month, quarter, week are all figured out. The other ones that you possibly could do, decade, I guess, which would be harder. And I don't want to do it because it would be harder.
I have decade and century in one of my bases for like major life events.
So you could take what I've done and sort of add the missing time units, and then day obviously isn't in here. I've sort of assumed that you don't need it down to the day, but if you did, then that's the easiest one to do because it's just the date field again. Yeah. This one you have to sort of chop things out and say, I don't care about the day, I care about what week it happened in. The date field comes with a day. So
yeah, this is hot. Can I say something I kind of love about it? I love your gradient on the green. It's almost ombre. It's very sexy.
I tried to make it so like year was the
heaviest.
Yeah, so it's the heaviest color and yada yada yada. So when you go into timeline view, sort of
it's sexy.
It stacks. The nice thing about timeline view, it kind of stacks things automatically for me. So year spans the whole, the widest, it's on top.
And this is my favorite thing that people do with Airtable is I know you're good at it, because I've seen your work, but you also make it look appeasing. I swear that's half the battle. People write me all the time about my Airtable, and at the end of the day, I go, "You just like the way it looks." Yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I think going back to one of Ben's points a little bit earlier on, I remember on one of the episodes of the Built on Air podcast, we kind of highlighted someone who was sort of well known in sort of the online tech community. Said, I don't know why you would use Airtable instead of just building your own SQL. Well, if you know SQL, sure, but then you'd have to build an interface for it. And we've already said Airtable is an insufficient end user interface, which is why Pori and Stacker and Softer exist. But in terms of, doing this, that didn't require me to write any code.
Yeah.
It just sort of happened.
But it just looks, it's just that timeline is beautiful.
So anyway, I'm going to be releasing this at some point. This is also the same base that I'm doing. I've set up a couple of automations that will auto number things by like, I've demoed this before, this kind of functionality. If you have an individual customer and you want to auto number by customer, you don't want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want John Doe's 1, 2, 3, and then Jane Smith's 1, 2, 3. This has an automation that does that as well. So it just so happens to be the same base. So if I start filling stuff in automation, again, the automation doesn't require scripting.
I see.
Yeah. Jane got a 1, and then the second John Doe became 2. If I kept going, the auto numbers are independent of each other.
What happens if you do a lot all at once?
It should be based on created time. So if can I duplicate? I don't know if I could duplicate.
You can't duplicate multiple at a time.
Okay, so what I will do is this. The automation only fires when you fill in the linked record, because that's what everything is being numbered by. So it should be doing it by the order in which something was added. If I group by customer, you can kind of see it a little bit better.
That was what I had ran into, was John ends up with 2 3s.
Okay, so this one you kind of see they were done right after the other and it kind of like froze. So, you know, you might run into an issue if you're doing a bunch all at once.
I think I talked about this before, but I did that with a podcast thing. They wanted to know what the next, when you enter the next record, it would fill in the next podcast number.
Mhm.
And so it worked, I think, the same way.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Anyway, so this space will be available sometime.
Awesome. Well, we can cut it off here. I know we went 20 minutes over, so thank you all for sticking around.
Good
Okay.
seeing everybody. I'll see you in 2 weeks, but I will be having fun at the Magic Kingdom next week.
Enjoy your trip. Well
Thank you.
deserved.
Camille, I'm trying to cut out to your part because that's the one I haven't been to in 20 years. Do you ever go to Disneyland?
Not really. I mean, it's anyone who lives in a city or metropolitan area that has like tourist attractions. If you grew up there, you just don't go to them. So
If I went, would you go with me?
sure,
Would you be my mini?
I could.
I love it. All right.
Awesome.
Sorry.
We'll see you all. Well, I'll see Chris you in 2 weeks. Camille, if you'd like to join next week, that'd be awesome.
Sure.